Good morning, Bitcoin. My name is Thomas Hunt, and this is Proof of Work. Proof of Work is a show about the people behind Bitcoin and how they got here. Today we're joined by Aaron from Bitcoin Magazine. How's it going, Aaron?
Good. With you?
Yeah, thanks so much for being here. How's the convention been treating you?
I like this one. This has a fresh feel to it. I like the hands-on approach with the demos. Nice group of people. I like this one. Yeah. Good,
better than the ICO scam fests and
a little
such?
bit. Yeah, a little bit. Nice, nice area. Malta, I've never been before.
It's nice. Yeah. It has the beach, has some nice forts and castles, all the sandstone everywhere.
I haven't seen any beaches. I've only seen like rocky stuff. Have you seen actual beaches?
You have to go to the north or the south. It's different places. There are some nice beaches.
All right. Well, I live in Barcelona now, so.
That's a tough to fight.
I got enough beaches around me, and I don't even like beaches.
Beaches are wonderful. It's a great place to read a book, as I've always said. But Aaron, we're going to go ahead and start with everyone's most favorite and familiar question. What was your first computer?
No idea. I have no idea. This was a long time ago, man. I don't know. I remember it was DOS.
Sure. So it was a PC, like a compatible PC?
It was pre-Windows. There was no Windows yet, that I remember. And the only thing I did on it was, there was a video game called Dave.
Yeah.
I was like 10 years old, I think, something like this. There was a video game called Dave, which I absolutely loved.
Yeah.
And I had like the post-it notes on my wall with all the DOS commands.
Sure.
To get into the game.
Because you had to change directory, you had to load the program. It was.
Yeah, I didn't know.
Writing code to get into a game. Yeah.
I didn't know what I was doing. I just knew like these are. If I type this in, Dave pops up on my screen. That's sweet.
Well, fantastic. So you got into computers and video games. Where did this lead you? Did you go?
I was a huge video game nerd though.
Yeah.
I was Nintendo fanboy.
Nice cartridges. Yeah.
Yeah, not anymore. I kind of quit doing that after the GameCube. Like the GameCube was my last one, and
that was a good Zelda. You had the sailing one.
Yeah, the Wind Waker. That was awesome.
Yeah.
I loved that one.
Yeah, it was beautiful.
But all of the Nintendos before it, like I was a huge Nintendo kid.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty amazing. I remember we got a Nintendo, had Zelda on it. I was huge into Zelda 2.
Yeah, man, Zelda was my favorite, for sure.
Amazing game, and it's funny, so many times in the real world, I'm reminded of my Zelda experience, and I'm like, I should put this in my bag because it's useful. and it's like, where did I get that idea? It's like, take this sword, like there's danger out there. And I was like, it's the same thing.
Zelda is really the only life lesson you need, you know?
It really is. Role-playing games. Yeah, it is there. A lot of like skills and then parties, and you're like, let's add this guy to my party because he's got good skills. And it's like, where did I learn that? Well, Zelda, role-playing games, all this kind of thing.
Yeah, I did that a lot. Also Mario Kart and the whole bunch, yeah.
Oh, sure. So how did playing video games on computers influence your career? Did you go and study computers, or did you go in a totally different direction?
No, I'm not a computer guy at all. No, I kind of, I studied history.
Yeah, me too.
Oh, you did? Yeah. I studied history. Well, I studied journalism first, and then I did a master's in history. So more of a specific area of history.
What kind of history did you study?
Yeah, so I studied a lot of free speech related history, but also, for example, history of the printing press and that kind of stuff. And that was a little bit in mind with the internet revolution that was obviously already well underway by the time that, this was like 5 years ago, 6 years ago, I'm not sure. But I saw that revolution in the internet, and I was studying like history stuff, and I figured I want to do something that could be relevant, or that could be, that could be useful.
That's what I found with my history degrees. They taught me how to write the history, but I wasn't ready to do that. I wanted to be involved in the history.
Right. Yeah, but it's very, it's useful if you know the history of where we came from. That gives you. I think it gives you a good idea of where we might head to next. So. So history of the printing press is something I studied pretty extensively, like different continents, how it influenced politics, how it influenced society, and I see some analogies with the internet and Bitcoin as well for where we're going.
Well, I think it puts you in a good position to identify Bitcoin when it comes along. you're like, this isn't like the other ones. This is more like the printing press where changed everything. Like previously you couldn't read and it didn't matter because there wasn't any books. With the printing press, it's like suddenly you had a reason to read. There's tons of books. You could read the Bible. I mean, there's all kinds of things that previously, only the priests had access, only the monks had access.
The way we as humans sort of construct reality around us is for a large part through stories. Like we tell ourselves stories. We tell ourselves the story of like the United States as a country, and you can't feel it or touch it. It's not there. It's a story we tell ourselves. And the same thing is true for religion or for smaller things like football clubs, or we tell each other stories all the time. So if a technology comes along that completely changes how we can tell stories, who can tell stories, that can have massive impact on actual human society and how we, what we consider reality and what we consider how we distribute resources and like everything. So I think Bitcoin is an example of that. That it's a big deal, I think. And like I said, the first time I really started to kind of look into it more so than very shallow, I realized like that this could be a big thing if we can create our own money, if we can manage our own money without the sort of a top-down structure to do it for us. That can really change. Like money is obviously incredibly important. It's a story as well. It's like a story. Absolutely. Like this is. It's just a piece of paper, but it's not just a piece of paper. We tell each other it has value and can pay taxes with it.
We don't have to barter. I don't have to trade you half a goat for a cello or anything like that. We can just price it separately.
So if you can do that in a different way, in a decentralized way, and like that's a big deal. And I wasn't even sure it's a good thing for a while, but even if it's a bad thing, it's important to keep an eye on, right? It's important to keep.
Even good or bad. I mean, I talk pretty often about how it could end war, and we wouldn't have money for weapons. But then a while ago, I was like, well, the other side of that is it also ends disaster relief. We can't just print money for the hurricane. If you want to donate, you actually have to donate because we actually have to pay for the disaster relief. Whereas right now, Congress just cranks out a bunch of money and we use it for disaster relief or for war or for anything.
There's a lot of, I think there's a lot of moving parts, a lot of dynamics to, if you're going to do money differently, there's a lot going on there. And and it's very hard to predict how people will actually respond to this. Like if people a lot of people right now see it maybe as like a speculative thing or maybe something to buy drugs and if people keep seeing it, in this sort of limited way, then it will be a sort of limited thing. But if people actually start embracing it and, start rejecting fiat currency, or maybe they'll start doing that in some part of the world, but in other parts of the world, the fiat currency story is still strong. And, how will that influence the dynamics? Because now one country can actually print money for war and maybe another will have a harder time at that. Or there's so many dynamics that, I think Bitcoin is overall a good thing right now, but maybe in a year from now I'll have an insight and I'll figure that actually there's pretty negative sides to it. We'll have to see,
and that's an interesting dynamic, the idea that one country could print for war and the other country couldn't print. It's kind of like when the world was half communist and half capitalist, the capitalists just outspent the communists. And they couldn't provide the lifestyle for their people, and they also couldn't provide the weapons. And just the one engine was bigger and faster, and there wasn't really even a competition. I'd worry about that a little bit. Maybe this money printing, Max is horrified at home, but maybe there is a superpower in it. Maybe it does provide an advantage in some ways.
Maybe. I currently think that Bitcoin is probably a good thing, and one of the reasons is also that it's very, it's quite unstoppable, right? You can even, and we're trying to make it more anonymous to make it even more unstoppable. So this way, the goal would be that any individual can just start using it without even anyone else knowing it, even if it's just for their personal holdings or something like that.
Absolutely.
And in that case, I think there would be some sort of, everyone's looking out for their own interests. There's probably not a lot of people that would just give up value for their country to go to war. So
they might have to take up a collection though. I mean, they might have to have rich Bitcoiners donate Bitcoin so they could go to war, which is what they used to do. They used to use actual money to pay for things. And if you were a richer country, you could buy more weapons and wreck the other countries. Whereas now you just print imaginary money and you're rich in debt, which is a different kind of solution.
Yeah, but lots of dynamics going on there. It's an interesting path we're on, I think.
Yeah, and I think your history background can help you, like myself, to see the various possibilities. And with Bitcoin, sometimes you just have one or two possibilities. Bitcoin could be anything, could be any of these possibilities, depending on how the development, depending on how the world treats it, these kind of things.
Yeah, there's definitely. I don't think there's one path set in stone yet. We can't go in, anywhere from hyper Bitcoinization where everyone will use it to it just kind of stays this play currency for a group of idealists, and there's a range of options in between. There's a lot of option open still.
So after you found Bitcoin, did you get right into it and start, collecting it and writing about it, or did it take some time?
It didn't take a lot of time. I was sort of starting out as a journalist, and I was looking for interesting stories, and this seemed to be something sort of in my alley.
Sure.
So I started following it a little bit. At first, I just thought it was like an anonymous PayPal. Like that's the first thing I thought, which I thought was interesting enough. Like, there's this dark market online that people are using it to buy like illegal stuff, and that's interesting. It's an interesting story. So I started to follow it, but then, I realized that not everyone is here just to buy drugs, and it's not just an anonymity thing. It's people see this as this is like a social movement. It's like people see a revolution here, and people, So the more I realized that this was an actual currency, a money, not just a payment system, and the more I realized people were actually seeing it as sort of a future technology that could change society ultimately. That's when I got really interested, and that didn't take very long. I think there was like a couple of weeks of sort of lurking this Bitcoin subreddit and that sort of stuff, but then and then the price started going up a lot. So at that point, I think I bought like €100 worth just because I wanted to see what happened. It was just sort of an experiment. I want to be part of it. And then I thought I bought into a pyramid scheme at first. I wanted to get my money out of Bitstamp, and I was emailing them, just give me my money back. And then, so that's what happened. It was like early 2013, there was the bubble to like $260 or something like that. And then it crashed, and then I was like, see, I was right. I was dumb. I bought into a pyramid scheme. I lost €100. I'm an idiot. Whatever. But then actually everything kept going. Because at first Mt. Gox and all the exchanges just disappeared offline. Because they were all being overloaded with and I thought it's over. Bitcoin is over. This was it.
Never come back.
But then like a couple hours or a day later, everything just kept going. New blocks were being mined. People were still buying it because the price wasn't zero. And that's when I really thought, okay, this is something. People clearly actually believe in this thing. And I think by half of 2013, I was writing my first articles on Bitcoin, which at first was like a personal blog. Called Bankless Blog in Dutch. And then as time went on, I had my own news site for a little while, also in Dutch, and I started contributing to CoinDesk, Bitcoin Magazine, Cointelegraph, and also a couple of others. And I think it was 2015 where I got a job at Bitcoin Magazine. I was doing freelance stuff before that, and since then.
I know there's a lot of opportunities for freelancers in Bitcoin, especially in the articles. People can get paid just a little bit. You write the article, you do pretty well. You keep writing them. I mean, then it's you have to production game. You have to keep producing them. Did you find that? Was it difficult to survive as a freelancer?
It was. You don't get, especially in these days, and I think still, you don't get a lot of money for an article.
No, you don't.
And for me, but by then the Bitcoin bug had bit me enough that I just wanted to do it. And I actually moved to Berlin around that time, and part of it was because I knew life was going to be cheaper there. And Berlin is like a fun city, and I wanted to go there anyways. But that's definitely, like, I figured with the amount of money I'm making with my freelance work in the Netherlands, it's actually harder in Berlin. I can maybe sustain myself. So I went to Berlin and went to live there for a year, which was it's a great city.
Nice. Sometimes. Did you get involved with the local Bitcoin community, like Room
a little bit? Oh yeah, for sure.
These kind of things, the meetups.
I went there pretty often. Yeah, definitely every month when there was like a standard meetup, and sometimes I just meet up with other Bitcoiners there, or traveling Bitcoiners who always end up at Room 77. Room 77 is great. Like it's every Bitcoiner should have gone to Room 77 at some point. So that's an awesome place.
Well, and it's amazing what someone can do with a restaurant, with a local place that you can gather in. They can adopt the new technology, take it for payments, and then inspire so many people just having a place to meet up, having a physical place that accepts it.
Yeah, and it's not like he's milking it too much commercially,
no,
like the meetups or they're always like informal, and you just meet other Bitcoiners. You have a beer and you have a burger and you have a good time, and that's excellent.
Well, and I found like Bitcoiners, not just, I mean, I used to think just computer geeks had a lot in common, but Bitcoiners even more so. You believe in the money and usually the history, and computer geek stuff too, video games and things. We get on really well at the meetups. And these aren't people who are very social. They don't get on very well with other people, but for some reason at the meetups or the conventions, if you can get somebody talking, they'll usually enjoy it. They'll enjoy the conversation. So.
Yep.
So you started, so you started meetups and you started writing, and now you're writing at Bitcoin Magazine. How's it going? Is it good? Yeah.
Good. Yeah. We switched to Bitcoin only since a couple of months.
How about that? I think it's right in the name, but I support that move. But,
so that's cool. Right now we're working on a print magazine again, but it will be a one-time thing at first, and then we'll see how we go on, whether or not we go on, or maybe like once a year, maybe.
It's so difficult because like print is exciting to old people like you and me because you get your name in print and you get to put it in a frame or something. You know, it's a little, in our minds, it's more permanent as an article. I suppose the internet or YouTube pretty much lasts the same amount this time and can't be burnt or ruined by water. But
I think digital is actually much more permanent these days.
It is. It's funny though that we want the print though. There's this dating app in the US called Bumble, and they're actually printing a magazine, and everyone's like, "What are you doing?"
Really?
And I suppose it's the only way to shock people. It's like there's only one or two things left. It's like, what's the most shocking marketing you could do to get some press? And you're an app on a phone, and now you have a real world physical magazine. Because I guess this is what their audience wants. Women want to read a magazine. I don't know. But that's what they're trying, and they're getting a lot of press for it just because it's such a shock now in this age of, and just like Amazon's opening bookstores. You know, it's that same
right.
The opposite that you expect. So.
Yeah, so we're doing a print magazine, we're doing a conference as well. So there will be a conference
San Francisco,
in June, shaping up pretty nicely, I think. Lots of registrations, lots of people will be there, I think.
Excellent.
And then I think the idea is that's where we'll distribute the magazine the first time. I'm also doing a lot of research into the prehistory of Bitcoin, like the cypherpunk mailing list. I'm digging through the cypherpunk mailing list.
I've seen some of your articles recently. You've uncovered a lot of interesting things that's just there in plain sight, but no one's going back and identifying it and putting it in a more readable format. It's
archival work. So it's kind of boring, like 95% of the time. Like a lot of, it was a completely unmoderated mailing list. So there's so much worthless or flame wars or but then once in a while you'll find this email and it's like a piece of gold and it's great.
Well, so you're finally putting your history degree to work here. That's the work that I was supposed to be doing.
It feels a lot like writing my master thesis. It's the archival work and. So I'm doing that. I'm hoping eventually. Well, I've started sort of turning it into a book. I'm starting to write a book on this topic. So that's kind of the end goal.
Again, a physical, real world thing in my mind. And again, I'm like, I got to get him to sign it, And but just I love books and book culture. But it's more about the ideas, and it'll be a Kindle book soon, I'm sure as well. And you can get it digitally, and it'll be there.
Sure. Well, so I'm doing both now. I'm working at Bitcoin Magazine and doing this. So it's part-time. So I'm not gonna give you a release date yet. It's
good.
It's a work in progress. I'm working on it one day at a time. And
well, that's excellent. And where can people learn more about your work and follow what you do?
Best place would be Twitter, I think. Yeah. So my Twitter handle's Aaron van W.
All right.
At Aaron van W.
And you're writing mainly for Bitcoin Magazine right now? Or are you doing any other freelance pieces? Or?
No, not anymore. No, it's just Bitcoin Magazine since a year or, what did I say, 2015? I've done some freelance articles in the meantime, actually, but it's Bitcoin Magazine.
That's great. Well, check that out at bitcoinmagazine.com. And thanks so much, Aaron, for the interview.
Thanks for having me.